It was just past 1:30 a.m. when Mark realized he was running on fumes. He'd been driving the same endless stretch of highway for hours, surrounded by nothing but desert and silence. His phone had no signal. Just when the fuel gauge hit E, a flickering neon sign appeared in the distance. Gas food open 24 hours. Relieved, Mark turned off the exit and pulled into a small, old-fashioned gas station. The lights buzzed weakly, and a single pump stood crooked under the faded sign. He got out, but the place felt wrong. Too quiet. Too quiet. The air was heavy, like the whole world was holding its breath. He called out, "Hello? Anyone here?" From inside the shop, a bell jingled, and an old man shuffled to the counter. His eyes were pale, his smile stretched too wide. "You look tired, son. Been a long drive." Mark nodded nervously. "Yeah, just need to fill up." The old man nodded slowly. "Pumps ready, cash only." Mark hesitated. There was no modern register, no card reader, just an old tin box on the counter. He handed the man a 20 and went to pump the gas. But when he looked at the dial, it wasn't moving. The pump was dry. Confused, he turned back to the store and froze. The lights inside were off. The man was gone. He pushed open the door. The bell jingled again, but the room was empty. Shelves covered in thick dust. Cans rusted over. A calendar frozen on October 1996. On the wall, a faded newspaper clipping read, "Tragedy at Exit 41. Gas station family found dead after fire." Mark's blood went cold. He stumbled back toward his car and saw the reflection in the glass. The old man was standing behind him, grinning in the window. "Told you, son," the voice whispered, dry as sand. "We're open 24 hours. Mark jumped into his car and sped off. When he looked in the rearview mirror, the gas station was gone. Just a burned-out patch of desert and a half-melted sign that barely read, "Closed." Have you ever driven down a long, dark highway and seen an exit sign for a place that doesn't exist? A road that just disappears. Tonight, I'm going to tell you about Exit 41, the off-ramp that locals say leads to nowhere, or maybe somewhere you don't want to go. This isn't just a ghost story, it's a warning. If you see the sign for Exit 41, whatever you do, don't take it. The legend of Exit 41 has been whispered around campfires and in late-night diners for decades. It's a stretch of old highway, Interstate 89, that snakes through the desolate mountains of Vermont. The story always starts the same. A lone driver, laddie at night tired and just wanting to get home. The fog rolls in thick, clinging to the asphalt, and the world outside the headlights seems to melt away. That's when they see it. A green sign, weathered and peeling, with faded white letters. Exit 41, Ashwood. There's just one problem. There is no town of Ashwood in Vermont. There never was. According to state records, Exit 41 was planned in the 1960s, but construction was abandoned due to unstable ground. The exit was never built, the ramp never paved. It's a ghost on the map. But people have taken it. The first documented case was a man named David Miller in 1982. He was a salesman driving home from a conference. He was overdue, and his wife reported him missing. A state trooper found his car 2 days later, parked neatly on the shoulder, just a quarter-mile past where Exit 41 should have been. The engine was cold, the tank was half full, but David Miller was gone. His wallet and keys were on the passenger seat. The only thing missing was him. The trooper noted something strange in his report. Deep parallel gouges in the car's roof, as if something enormous had tried to pry it open. Over the years, the stories piled up. A young couple on their honeymoon, a family on vacation, a trucker on his regular route. All vanished. The pattern was always the same. They were last seen on I-89. They called someone to say they were taking a detour through a small town called Ashwood. And then, silence, their cars would be found abandoned. Sometimes days, sometimes weeks later, always near the phantom location of Exit 41. One of the most chilling accounts came from a woman named Sarah, the sole survivor, if you can call it that. In 2005, she and her boyfriend, Mark, were driving late at night. They were arguing, and Mark, angry and not paying attention, swerved off onto exit 41, hoping it was a shortcut. Sarah said the road was real. It was paved, lined with tall, skeletal pine trees that seemed to lean in, blocking out the moonlight. They drove for what felt like hours. Even though their GPS had died and the radio just hissed static, they eventually saw lights ahead. The town of Ashwood. But it was wrong. The houses were dark, with a Victorian style that felt out of place. There were no cars, no people, just an unnerving, oppressive quiet. A single street light flickered in the town square, casting long, dancing shadows. In the center of the square stood a large, leafless ash tree. Mark stopped the car. He wanted to ask for directions. Sarah begged him not to get out. She said she felt like they were being watched, not by people, but by the houses themselves. The windows were like vacant eyes. Mark didn't listen. He stepped out of the car and walked toward the nearest house. As soon as his feet touched the ground, every light in the town went out, plunging them into absolute darkness. Sarah screamed. She heard a sickening crunch, then a wet, dragging sound. She locked the doors and huddled in the passenger seat, too terrified to move. Hours passed. Just before dawn, the car's engine sputtered back to life on its own. The headlights came on, illuminating the road back to the highway. The town was gone. There was only forest. Sarah floored it. She didn't stop driving until she saw the familiar lights of a 24-hour gas station. When the police found her, she was incoherent, rambling about a town that ate her boyfriend. They found the car, and on the passenger's side door, there was a long, deep scratch, and a single, dark handprint that was far too large to be human. So, if you ever find yourself on that lonely stretch of I-89, and the fog gets a little too thick, and you see that old green sign for exit 41, keep your foot on the gas. Don't slow down. Don't even look, because some roads aren't meant to be traveled, and some towns don't want visitors. They just want to be left alone, waiting in the dark for the next lost driver. It was around 2 a.m., and Sarah was driving home alone after visiting her parents in another city. The highway stretched endlessly through the desert, straight, dark, and empty. The only light came from her headlights and the occasional road sign flickering by. Then she noticed a pair of headlights appear in her rearview mirror. A large truck was coming up fast. Within seconds, it was right behind her, its high beams blinding her through the mirror. She tapped the brakes lightly to signal for the driver to back off, but instead, the truck got even closer. It was tailgating her, nearly touching her bumper. Her heart started pounding. She switched lanes. The truck switched too. She slowed down, it slowed down. She sped up. It sped up. Now panic set in. There were no other cars, no gas stations, no exits for miles. Just darkness and that blinding pair of lights glued to her rear window. After what felt like forever, she spotted a small diner ahead with a single neon sign glowing. Open. She turned sharply into the lot. The truck roared past, without slowing down its engine, growling into the distance. Sarah stumbled inside, trembling. The old man behind the counter looked up and said, "You okay, miss? You look like you've seen a ghost." When she told him about the truck, he frowned and said, "You're lucky you stopped here. That stretch of highway's been bad lately. Cops found 3 cars run off the road just this month. Same story, truck follows, lights blind, then gone." Sarah glanced out the window. In the distance, the truck had stopped under a flickering streetlight. Its engine was still running. Then, slowly, the headlights turned off, and one by one, the truck's taillights blinked, like eyes, before vanishing into the night. The road stretched out before me, a ribbon of black asphalt swallowed by the ink-black night. I was driving home from a late work meeting, the only soul on this lonely stretch of highway that cut through dense, dark woods. The rhythmic hum of my engine was the only sound, a comforting drone against the silence. That's when I saw them, 2 pinpricks of light in my rearview mirror, far in the distance. Another late-night travel, I thought, and felt a small sense of relief. But the relief was short. The lights grew larger, faster than they should have. The car behind me was closing the distance at an alarming speed. Soon, it was right on my tail, so close I couldn't see its grille. Just the blinding glare of its high beams flooding my car. My heart started to pound. Was this some kind of road rage? I tapped my brakes, a gentle warning. The car behind me didn't react. It stayed glued to my bumper. I sped up a little, trying to create some space. The other car matched my speed instantly. A cold knot of fear tightened in my stomach. This wasn't normal. I tried to get a look at the driver, squinting into the rearview mirror, but the headlights were too bright, creating a blinding, anonymous glare. I decided to take the next exit, a winding back road that was a longer route home but would hopefully shake this person off. As I signaled and turned, my breath caught in my throat. The headlights followed. Now we were on a narrow, tree-lined road, even more isolated than the highway. Panic set in. I floored the gas pedal, my car groaning in protest as we careened around sharp turns. But no matter how fast I went, the blinding lights were always there, a relentless predator on my heels. My mind raced, searching for an explanation, but all I found was pure, undiluted terror. Suddenly, my engine sputtered. It coughed once, twice, and then died. I coasted to a stop, the car plunging into an unnerving silence. The woods on either side of the road seemed to press in, their shadows deep and menacing. And beneath me, the other car stopped too. Its high beams stayed on, pinning me in a spotlight of harsh, white light. For a long moment, nothing happened. The silence was deafening, broken only by my own ragged breathing. Then I heard it. A car door creaking open. A slow, deliberate crunch of footsteps on the gravel, coming closer. Closer. I fumbled with my phone, my fingers trembling too much to dial 911. The footsteps stopped right beside my driver's side door. I squeezed my eyes shut, bracing for the sound of shattering glass. But there was only a soft, rhythmic tapping. Tap, tap, tap. Against my will, my eyes flickered open. I slowly turned my head, my neck muscles screaming in protest. There was no one there. The space beside my car was empty, but the tapping continued, now seeming to come from the roof of my car. Tap, tap, tap. It was slow, patient, like rain. But it wasn't raining. Primera? Looked up. There was nothing but the dark metal of my car's ceiling. The tapping stopped. Silence returned, heavier and more menacing than before. Then, a new sound, a low scraping, coming from the back of the car. It was the sound of metal on asphalt, a long, drawn-out screech that made my teeth ache. I risked a glance in the rearview mirror. The other car was gone. The road behind me was empty and dark, but the scraping sound was still there, getting louder, as if something was being dragged from underneath my car. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. I could only sit and listen as the scraping came around to my door, and a long, pale hand with impossibly long fingers reached up and slowly, deliberately, wrapped around the door handle. It was a foggy night on Route 19, and Daniel, a long-haul driver, was halfway through his midnight route. The radio crackled with static, and he hadn't seen another car in hours. As he rounded a bend, he noticed a figure standing by mile marker 187. A woman in a long white coat, her thumb out for a ride. Against his better judgment, Daniel pulled over. She climbed in without saying much. Her clothes were damp from the fog, and she stared straight ahead, never meeting his eyes. After a few minutes, Daniel asked where she was heading. She whispered softly, just up the road. Past the bridge. He nodded and drove on. The fog thickened, and the bridge appeared an old steel structure spanning a deep ravine. When they reached the middle, Daniel glanced over to ask if this was her stop, but the seat was empty. The passenger door was still locked. Her damp coat left a wet mark on the seat. Daniel slammed the brakes, heart pounding, and jumped out. Nothing. Just the whispering fog and the sound of water rushing below. When he finally reached the next town, he told a gas station clerk what happened. The man's face went pale. "You saw her too," he said. "That woman died on that bridge 20 years ago. Car went over the edge. They never found her body. Folks say she's still trying to hitch a ride home." Daniel never took Route 19 again, but sometimes, on foggy nights, other drivers report the same thing. A woman in white, standing at mile marker 18, waiting. They say some roads hold memories, dark stains from the past that never wash away. For Interstate 80, that stain is mile marker 187. Most people just drive past it, another number on a long, lonely highway. But for those who know the stories, it's a place you pray you never have to stop. The legend starts with a simple, chilling warning passed down by truckers and late-night travelers. Never, ever pick up a hitchhiker near that sign, especially if she's a young woman, alone in the dark. The story always begins the same way. A driver, usually alone, battling fatigue as the miles blur together. Then, up ahead, a figure appears in the headlights. A girl. Sometimes she's described with long, dark hair, plastered to her face by rain. Other times she's just a silhouette against the moon. Her thumb is out, her expression desperate. Against their better judgment, the driver pulls over. The cold that rushes in when the door opens is more than just the night air. She climbs in, silent. She never says where she's going, just points ahead. The driver, trying to break the heavy silence, might ask her name or if she's okay. No answer. The only sound is the hum of the engine and the rhythmic thump of the tires on the asphalt. The temperature in the car plummets. The driver starts to feel an unexplainable dread, a primal fear that screams something is terribly wrong. They glance over at the passenger seat, and she's just staring straight ahead, her eyes fixed on the road, looking almost translucent. Translucent. This is where the stories diverge. But they all end in terror. Some drivers say they look away for just a second, maybe to check their mirror, and when they look back, the seat is empty. The passenger door is still locked, the seatbelt still buckled, but she's gone. Vanished. The only thing left behind is a damp spot on the seat and a chill that lingers for miles. Others aren't so lucky. They report seeing her face change in the dim light, her features twisting into something inhuman. Her eyes, once filled with desperation, now burn with an ancient malice. The most terrifying accounts are from those who saw her just before they crashed. They claim that as they approached a sharp curve, the girl would suddenly lunge for the steering wheel, her grip icy and impossibly strong. Her whisper, the first and only words she speaks, is a cold breath in their ear. "This is where I died." The car swerves, tires screech, and then darkness. First responders arriving at these scenes often find a single car wreck with no explanation. The strangest part, they sometimes find two sets of footprints leading away from the crash, but only one leading to it. Lock your doors, keep your eyes on the road, and drive. Whatever you do, just keep driving. Some say she's a lost soul, forever replaying her final moments. Others believe she's something far worse, a lure that pulls others into the same fate. Either way, her road is a lonely one, and she's all. Tom was a state trooper patrolling the lonely Highway 47, a stretch notorious for fatal wrecks. It was near midnight when his radio suddenly crackled to life. Unit 3. Need assistance. The voice was faint, filled with static. He didn't recognize the call sign, but it sounded urgent. He grabbed the mic. "This is Officer Tom Harding. Identify yourself." Silence. Then, through heavy distortion, "Mile 112. Please, Help. Tom floored the gas. When he reached mile 112, there was nothing. No wreck. No lights. No sign of life. Just the cold wind over the asphalt. He stepped out and shone his flashlight around. That's when he noticed skid marks. Veering off the road, leading into the trees. He followed them and found an overturned police cruiser half buried in brush. Its metal rusted, its windshield shattered. The number on the side read, Unit 3. He radioed dispatch immediately. The operator's voice came back, confused. Unit 3, that can't be right. That car went missing in 1998. The officer, he never made it back. Tom froze. The air around him grew colder. His radio hissed again, the same distorted voice whispering through the static. Thanks for coming, officer. You're the only one who ever did. Then the cruiser's headlights flickered on, even though there was no battery left. Tom backed away slowly, shaking. He never found his way back to that exact spot again, no matter how many times he tried. The area was completely unmarked on his map, but on quiet nights, other troopers still report the same thing. A faint call on Channel 9, asking for help at mile 11.2. Have you ever wondered what you'd do if you were the last voice of hope in a world falling apart? Imagine this. You're a late-night radio host in a small, sleepy town. Suddenly, the emergency lines start ringing off the hook. People are scared. They're confused, and they're talking about monsters in the streets. This isn't just a bad dream. It's the start of a zombie apocalypse, and you're the only one on the airwaves. Welcome to the world of the dead frequency. In this game, you step into the shoes of Forrest Nash, a radio DJ in the town of Gallows Creek. Your shift starts like any other, but it quickly descends into chaos. The dead are walking, and your listeners are calling in, desperate for help. You're not a hero with a shotgun or a soldier with a plan. You're just a guy in a sound booth with a microphone, a record player, and a town map. Your job is to be the lifeline for the survivors, guiding them to safety using only your voice and your wits. The core gameplay is incredibly unique. Someone calls in, panicked, trapped somewhere in town. They'll describe their surroundings. Maybe a landmark they can see from a window or the name of the street they're on. You have to use your map and your knowledge of Gallows Creek to figure out where they are and find the safest path for them to escape. Do you send them down the dark alley that's a shortcut but might be crawling with zombies? Or do you guide them along the main road, which is longer but might be clearer? Every choice you make has consequences, and a wrong turn could mean hearing another one of your listeners meet a grim end, live on air. What makes this game so terrifying isn't jump scares, but the crippling sense of responsibility. The voices on the other end of the line feel real. You'll hear the fear in their breath, the desperation in their pleas. You'll talk to a police officer trying to hold the line, a pizza delivery boy caught in the wrong place at the wrong time, and many others. You start to feel connected to these people, and their survival genuinely feels like it rests on your shoulders. The sound design is top-notch. The crackle of the radio, the distant screams, and the chilling silence between calls all build an atmosphere of pure dread. Between calls, you're still running a radio show. You have to pick the music, keeping the vinyl spinning to fill the dead air. Choosing the right 80s synth-pop track to play after someone just described a zombie attack creates this surreal, unsettling vibe that is just brilliant. You also solve small puzzles around the studio to unlock new areas and information that might help you save more people. It's this combination of puzzle solving, moral dilemmas, and intense atmospheric storytelling that makes the dead frequency so compelling.